Hey everyone, you are listening to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. This little banter is about a car ride long and features your hosts, JJ Parker and Melissa Albers. JJ owns a tech company and Melissa has been a coach working with influencers for the last 18 years.
I was doing that presentation for my Vistage group about remote work. And as I was giving that, I was talking about how we all used to go to work, right? And we used to have all these routines to go to work. And, we'd get up in the morning and we'd get showered, we'd have breakfast and we'd do all that. And now today it's very different, right? We all have these very different routines. And partway through that presentation, I realized we put on we're very used to putting on a work uniform in the morning and going to work and acting these in these professional ways, right?
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good analogy.
But now that we're working from home, what I'm doing instead is I'm getting up, I'm staying in my pajama pants and trying to act like a professional, right? which is funny because I was thinking the uniform is kind of impacting the way I think and the way I act. Right.
Yeah,
and I wasn't really realizing that until I've been working from home and realizing that my jammy pants are also impacting the way I act, especially when I'm trying to be a professional at my job.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, and I love the implication that you're just giving because you're talking about the uniform as an external thing, right? This is what I wear. And yet there's so much that we also mentally do to put that same uniform on when we go to work.
Oh, totally. Yeah. When I was thinking about and referring to a uniform, my uniform's a hoodie. So I'm not actually saying I'm getting into uniform, right? Which is ironic. It's not that much different than my jammy pants. But yeah, it's a mental uniform. It's not I'm not really referring to a physical uniform. I'm really referring to a mental uniform, right? I get in a different mental space when I have to go be professional, right?
Yeah.
But is that authentic? Is that really me? Am I, you know what I mean? I was realizing, am I I'm a 40-year-old guy with kids. Am I pretending to be a professional 5 days a week? And what am I doing the rest of the time?
I was having a conversation with someone last week and, just in the same vein, she was talking about how, boy, as soon as we got this stay at home design or whatever, she realized that the stuff that she did in the morning, not just mentally her uniform or how she got dressed, but that she had certain habits that she did all the time. So for example, she would get off the bus downtown Minneapolis and she would walk a half a mile to her office. And in that walk, she would mentally set up all of the dominoes that she was planning on attacking the minute she sat down in her chair. And she realized now the walk from her kitchen down 2 flights of stairs to her office was not affording her any domino time. And it was really throwing her off.
Oh yeah. That's another thing I was talking about earlier this week is this, the routine, right? We're kind of creatures of habit, right? So we have all these built-in habits and routines that we don't ever think about. And it's just autopilot most of the time. That's a great story about how there was a built-in habit that was actually helping her be more effective at her job. Didn't realize she had it until it was gone, right?
Exactly. And not only realizing that it was gone, but it legitimately really threw her off.
Yeah. So the question is when did she realize it threw her off? Because she could have been in this thrown off state for quite a while, right? Because it's funny because you can't connect. It's hard to connect some of those habits with the way you're actually feeling and inside, right? You don't realize that those things are correlated because you never think about them.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're actually, to me, I'm going in 2 different places in this conversation. I think about how I think about something and the habits that I form because it makes me feel safe. But I also am thinking about how I feel and just the how different the two are, and how normally in work I can go into a certain mode of acting because I'm thinking like, oh, I'm at this stage of this work, so I need to act a certain way. Whereas my feelings have always not really come into the equation in a work setting necessarily.
Mm-hmm. So like, what's an example of that? Like if you were like what, like trying to sell somebody, like when you were a salesperson, I mean, would you get that separation of feeling? Like what's a example?
For sure. I mean, this goes right into our conversations. I think about being really aware, self-awareness is being able to understand who you are on the inside, and that everything but everything matching, like what you're saying matches how you're thinking, and how you're thinking matches how you feel. And I just noticed that there's right now, less separation with all of those things.
So like, because we're all having to work from home, right? Normally we'd be in our fanciful offices. Now we're just like, I'm in my basement surrounded by all sorts of kids stuff, you're in a house full of dogs.
Exactly.
So like our work personas and our home personas are absolutely colliding right now. Right. And we can't
agree with you more. Yeah.
And we can't separate them right now. Like really, like we can try, but I've been trying, and I've been on calls with my leadership team, and my kids are in the background. So it puts a strain on those two kind of parts of me, right?
Yeah. And I almost like want to call them like our authentic part and our actor part. Like you talked about putting on that uniform. And to me, that's like kind of putting up the shield, putting on the covering to go to work, which includes how you dress, how you show up, the energy that you're kicking off. And then when you get home, presumably you set that uniform down, or you keep it in the car, and then you come into your home and you have a different life experience, or you have different emotions or feelings that you show, or whatever. So I think that you're exactly right. It's all coming together, and it's creating a little bit of a ruckus.
Well, totally. Like if you think about some of the words that we've used in the past, certainly like you've heard people like, I leave my work at work, right? I hang my hat up when I come home. All those kinds of metaphors, right, are saying that like I'm a different person at work than I am at home, and I have separation of them. But nowadays we don't. We're not like afforded that opportunity, maybe.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, was that right in the first place? Like, were we creating like internal conflicts? Like, why are we creating like multiple personalities for ourselves? That seems stressful.
Yeah, but it's so normal. I totally agree with you. Like, how do you, for you, like when you're this is such a good conversation. When you're at home, how have you noticed that you are showing up? Like, do you notice that you're really different on the outside, or do you just like feel different? Or how do you know? How do you know if you're acting like you would normally act, or if you're not acting, like, or you're showing some of that stress from how you're feeling?
Yeah. Well, so let's see. I mean, just like this week again, like running the company during this time, right? I have to like I'm the leader, right? Like I need to give everybody confidence and security and all these things. And in my head, I've got this image of what that looks like, right? But the reality is like I'm worried just like everyone else is worried, right?
Yeah, right.
Like I'm not like I could stand up and give this like big sort of like I got it, you guys, everything's okay. But like the fact is internally, it's like I worry just like they were, all the employees worry too. So
yeah. And that's so good, JJ. And that's just like being really honest. And like for me, in my career of being a coach, I feel like this tremendous that burden's not the right word. I feel a tremendous desire and expectation to be that center column that people can lean on. And especially now, I feel like people are way more open and way more authentic now than they've ever been.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I see it. I mean, I see it in myself, and I've been seeing it in my employees.
Yeah. And it's really funny because now just in this conversation, I'm realizing at the front end of this, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself too. It's like, oh, you're the coach, Melissa. You're supposed to have the answers. You're supposed to have the always know 10 ideas that someone can try, and feeling this pressure that I was putting on myself to be that. And yet, as this became more and more time going by, 2 or 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, realizing that is not at all what people were expecting. Mm-hmm. And then me putting down some of those strong expectations also made me more vulnerable and more authentic, which was what they actually wanted to begin with.
Yeah, it's I've been doing these like videos to our crew, just kind of about the state of the union. And whenever I did those in the past, we were at the office, there was lights, I had it scripted, right?
Yeah.
And I was always very precise about my words. I did one last week, again, in my basement, and I had notes on this notepad. I was like, hey, you know what, you guys, I'm just going to read off my notebook and talk to you guys about what's going on in the company. On no scripts. It was wandering a little bit. It wasn't that tight, but that was fine because it was me authentically just leading the company in my basement with what we had. And it was everyone responded really well. There's like, thank you so much. This is so good to hear from you. In a very authentic way. It wasn't the professional JJ. It was like just JJ.
Yeah.
Talking to people about how scary things are in the world right now and how we're going to work on getting through it together. That's it,
Yeah. I can't help but wonder how we're going to be on the backside of this.
That's a good question.
Yeah. And I don't want to say back to normal because I don't like that term. I don't think that there is a normal. I think that we're in a different place and where we're going is a very different place. And I'm really curious what we're going to be like. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I'm optimistically curious about how we are after this.
Well, back during that presentation that I was giving, another interesting thing kind of fell out of it. Like we were talking about tools, right? Like video conferencing tools. All the people who just are like, I'm working from home and I got to still figure out how to lead an organization, right?
Yeah.
And what I told everybody is like, listen, you guys, this is an opportunity for you to start leading differently.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not going to be leading the way you used to lead. Like you don't get to pile everybody into your big conference room and have them all listen to every word you say, right? You're going to have to do it different. And not only the tools, right? Like how we deliver those messages, but I really like what you're saying is the way we connect with other people, the way we show up at work, we're going to have to lead differently there too, because in these kinds of times, like the only thing that works is, being authentic and vulnerable and connect, like truly connect with people.
Yeah. And I think that connection and that vulnerability, the only way that happens is when you're really aware of yourself and how you are. And also your energy. What is the energy that you're kicking off? Because you can sit on a video and people can feel your energy before you say a word. And that's what they're following. And then when you follow that with just, like you were talking, it's unscripted and authentic. They get that energy and they hear your authenticity And people are right there. People are right there. So I agree. It's a huge opportunity for us.
Well, I look forward to seeing how people start showing up different at work, right? How the home version of you and the professional version of you get all mixed up together into one super awesome version of you.
Me too. That'll be awesome. What a fun conversation. We hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. Our mission is to help people become happier and more effective by gaining insight into their own thoughts and feelings. We'd love your support. First, share this podcast with anyone you think might enjoy it. Second, leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast site. This helps others discover the podcast so we can reach more people. And third, sign up for our newsletter at theselfawarenessjourney.com. This will help us communicate better with you and build our community. Thank you so much for joining us in the Self-Awareness Journey. We'll see you next week.